So the final element of visual styling. Didn't I tell you there was a lot to eyelash extensions and they are hard, but honestly, when it clicks, it is so worth it. So moving on from the eye shape, we have natural eyelash extensions. So I would say this is kind of the last element when looking at visual styling. The natural eyelashes need to be taken into account because it is going to determine what eyelash extensions our clients are going to be able to hold. So what we're looking at when we're looking at the client's natural eyelashes is we're looking at the lash health. Are they healthy? Are they clean? Do they have a full set of natural eyelashes? We're looking at the thickness. Do they have thick eyelashes? Do they have fine eyelashes? We are looking at the length. Are they long? Are they short? We are looking to see if there is any damage. Are there any gaps? If there are gaps and there are damage, then we need to determine why are there gaps? Why is there damage? There is what is the word I'm looking for? Condition, which we discussed earlier on when we were looking at contraindications, called trichotillomania. So trichotillomania is where you pick your eyelash extensions out. So does the client have damage because they've been picking? Have they been pulling their eyelashes out? Do we need to recommend a serum? Do they need a bit of time to let those lashes grow back? Or does the client naturally just have gaps in their lash line, which can absolutely be a thing? You are training with an academy that has been teaching and lashing for a long, long time. So you will have a head start. When I started training, when I started doing lashes, training to do lashes, I did a fairly standard course. It was 2014. I mean, I didn't even have a module. It was very basic. So I kind of started here where you are starting here. And for me, because we didn't cover styling, I didn't understand that we needed to look at the length of lashes and look at the spacing between the eyes. So for me, what I would do is I would get a client that comes into my salon. They're like, right, I want really long eyelashes. And they would come onto my bed and I would be like, your lashes are really short. You can't handle length. And actually, they can handle length. They can absolutely have length. We just have to drop down in diameter and weight. So rather than using, for example, a fan that is 0.07, we would use a fan that is 0.05. Or rather than using a 7D or an 8D fan, which is 7 lashes within one fan, or 8 lashes within one fan, we're going to drop down to a 3D or a 4D. So they can handle that length. We just don't put as much weight on the eyes. And I'm just going to read out this little quote, which I always remember because my boss, when I was in finance, said it once to me and it's always stuck. Where is the sentence? Let's just start from when I started in this industry. I didn't take any of the above into consideration. If my client had long lashes, I assumed they were strong and could hold super long extensions. And on the opposite end, if my client had teeny tiny naturals, I would only use short extensions. This is not the case because there are so many other factors to take into consideration. Never assume. Why? Because it makes an S out of you and me. So ASS, you, me, and it always just makes me think about everything that I'm doing. This industry is about trial and error, and if it doesn't work the first time, try and try again. What does this even mean? It means I used to assume that short naturals meant I had to use short extensions because it made logical sense. Why does this make an ass out of you and me? Because I haven't done my job properly and I've given client extensions that are barely visible and my client wishes she hadn't just spent £80 on extensions that aren't visible. So she's upset because she's just spent money on eyelash extensions that she can't even see. And I'm annoyed because actually I haven't taken this theory into consideration. I've given my client short lashes when actually they could handle length. And just before we move on to curls, etc., I am going to move on to the next page because the final part that we need to take into consideration with kind of visual styling is the client expectation. So we can do the styling, we can get out our rulers, we can look at the face, we can look at the face shape, we can look at the spacing between the brows, and we can say, okay, you've got, low space, you can't have too much length, or yes, your lashes are super long, you can have super long extensions. This is what we would recommend. A client may come in and say, actually, I work in the NHS, I need to have small lashes. So any of the styling that we've just done goes out the door, because the client expectation takes precedence in that case, as long as it's safe and healthy to do so. What would you say, as a question to you, if your client came in and they have small space between the eyelashes and the brows, and they want really long natural eyelashes, because really long extensions, because their natural lashes are really long? Are we going to take the client expectation into consideration here, or are we going to say no? We are going to say no, but we're going to do it in a way that the client understands why we're saying no. So a client comes in, super long naturals. I really, really want really long eyelashes because my naturals are really long. However, they don't have much space. What I'm going to say is, oh my God, your natural eyelashes are beautiful. You do have a low brow bone, which is really common. I always just say I've got a bit of a low brow bone, just to make them feel a bit more comfortable, which means actually that your brow sits slightly lower. So if we go too long, as your naturals are really long, and we kind of go the length of your naturals or longer, they are probably going to touch your brows and just look a little bit too long. So on this appointment, let's try a little bit shorter. And then maybe if you did want to extend the length in your infill, we can potentially look at that then. And generally a client is going to be happy with your advice. Next, in the next clip, we are going to move on to lash curls. And we touched briefly in lash curls previously, but just to go into a little bit more detail for you.